welcome you for the series of episodes called Happy Parenting and Teaching. In the last episode, I gave the example of the Golden Buddha. How everyone has a talent, but the talent has to be exploited. The talent has to be used by acquisition of such knowledge and skill in a platform for which attitude and passion is very, very important. I ended up saying that all of us have children who can perform, but the question is how the school teachers and the parents work together to make it possible. The next NLP presupposition is very, very important. You cannot not communicate. There is a double negative here. You cannot not communicate. This presupposition says that you are always communicating. Now, many of us think that communication is words, or a communication is like a conveyor belt, and there is a conveyor, and you place some object here, and it goes there. Right? It hardly works that way. Communication is the result that you produce. There is a saying, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. If at all there is a purpose of communication, it is to produce results. You cannot not communicate. You are always communicating. It is not just the words. There are the non-verbal. Which is very, very important. Somebody said that only 8% of the communication takes place through words, and the balance 92% of the communication takes place through other parameters which are very important to improve the quality of communication, like the tonality, like the facial expression, like the voice inflection or emphasis, right? The communication, the silent communication that takes place between the teacher and the taught, they are very, very important. Now, that's why we have been very keenly discussing the gap between teaching and learning. If there is a purpose of a class teacher or a subject teacher, the purpose is to communicate effectively. I'm going to demonstrate in the next few episodes a couple of games which, when effectively played, will improve the quality of rapport between the teacher and the taught. Many of us may not be aware that learning takes place in 3 modes. One is called the visual, the other is called the auditory, and the third one is called the kinesthetic way of communicating. We will come to it a little later. What are the non-verbal aspects of communication? The posture of a teacher, the eye contact, right? The words that are used, what I call as, in the process of communication, the ability to connect emotionally. Right? And connecting in terms of feelings. All these things are very, very important. You are always communicating. I can give a couple of examples. You know what I did? I made all these presuppositions in the form of a note. I gave it to my teachers, and the best way to learn NLP is to implement some of these concepts. For example, teachers are given a presupposition for a week. You cannot not communicate, and they have to understand what this presupposition means and write what they understood. Taking an incident. In one school, I came across an incident. A teacher will never accept any gift from any student. See, normally what happens in a school, students come with the chocolate and they will distribute. This teacher will not take a chocolate from any student, except one student, or maybe a couple of students. Now, what are you trying to communicate? Now, you may not be saying that I do not like you guys, I like only these children, but you are communicating that. There is another case where this presupposition was very, very relevant. A teacher will give a reward from out of her own expenses. For every good behavior, she will reward a small little gift, not a very costly, maybe it could be an eraser, or it could be a pencil, or it could be a chocolate, 5-star chocolate, or whatever it is. What are you trying to communicate? You're trying to communicate that I care for you. You're trying to communicate that I like you guys, right? I will encourage you to speak out. In a third school, I came across a teacher. In a year, class teacher of a school, of a class, in a year of about 220 days working, she would have visited the house of each child, right? She will have a timetable and go and meet the parents. By the end of the year, this teacher would have known the family circumstances of each and every child. Now, the point I'm trying to communicate with you is, you cannot not communicate. It means you are always communicating. Whether you are using the words or not, whether you are openly telling your point of view or not, you are always communicating. I can close this episode by saying, once again, re-emphasizing that a teaching is not a conveyor belt where a teacher says something and the student just absorbs. What is very, very important is connecting. With students is very, very, very important. It is not what we want to communicate. So it is not what we want to communicate. What is even more important is how do we communicate. You are always communicating. Now, a pat at the back, an encouraging words, a wink of your eye, all these things are communication. The body posture is a communication. Watch the children. How are they seated in your classroom? And go and observe a model teacher, a role model teacher. What is the energy level in the classroom that students are communicating? Or if the students are running here and there, not at all attentive, they are communicating that maybe you are not connecting with them. This presupposition, you cannot not communicate, is very interesting. See you in my next episode.